Ever think about how like a single building can practically hold like an entire nation's history? You know,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
today we're going deep into a place that's seen it all.
Hmm.
Over 1,000 years of Polish history.
Wow.
Wall Castle in Krakow.
It's incredible, isn't it? Well, it's so much more than just like bricks and mortar. It
Right.
really embodies Poland's, triumphs and tragedies and
Yeah,
ultimately that like enduring Polish spirit.
it's true. And we've got sources here spanning centuries,
Hmm.
and they really paint a vivid picture.
Yeah.
We're talking royal feasts and devastating fires,
Ah,
foreign occupations, and even a daring art rescue mission.
really?
That practically reads like a spy thriller.
That's amazing.
So Wawel's story, it's really deeply intertwined with Poland's own narrative.
Definitely. To understand one, you have to understand the other.
Exactly. So let's go back to the beginning.
Okay.
Our sources point to Wawel Hill,
Hmm.
attracting settlers as far back as the 600s,
Wow.
long before like any grand castle stood there.
Interesting. So what drew those early inhabitants to this spot?
Well, the hill's natural defenses were key.
Okay.
It's perched high above the Vistula River,
Right.
so it would have provided a strategic lookout point and a natural barrier
Make sense.
against potential attackers.
Yeah, you can practically picture those early settlements just taking root
Yeah,
on this strategic high ground.
totally. And of course, no origin story would be complete without a legendary dragon.
Oh, a drag.
Right, we've got accounts of Prince Crack,
Okay.
the city's namesake,
Mm-hmm.
who supposedly slew this fearsome dragon dwelling in Wawel's caves.
The tale of Prince Crack and the Dragon.
Uh-huh.
It's a classic founding myth. It speaks to that deep connection between Wawel and Poland's identity.
Right, from its very origin.
Yeah, for sure.
But it wasn't until the 11th century that Wawel truly became the political and cultural heart of Poland.
Interesting.
Rulers like Casimir the Restorer
Okay.
chose Wawel as their primary seat of power.
So that's when we start to see a real transformation.
Exactly. The castle evolves from a relatively simple stone structure,
Uh-huh.
referred to in our sources as palatium,
A palace.
essentially an early form of a palace,
Gotcha.
into a sprawling complex fit for royalty.
Wow.
Cathedrals are erected, defensive towers rise,
Amazing to think about.
and those royal apartments, they start to take on a level of grandeur
Right.
befitting a powerful kingdom.
It must have been incredible to witness that architectural evolution
Yeah.
over the centuries.
And speaking of grandeur, things get even more extravagant in the 16th century,
Okay.
when the Renaissance wave sweeps through Europe.
Ah, the Renaissance.
King Alexander, a huge admirer of Italian art and architecture,
Uh-huh.
he decides Wawel needs a serious upgrade.
Oh, wow.
He brings in Italian masters
Okay.
to transform the castle with elegant arcaded galleries, spacious courtyards,
Nice. Oh.
all hallmarks of Renaissance design.
So Wawel goes from this medieval fortress
Yeah.
to a palace fit for a Renaissance king.
Right. What a dramatic shift in style.
Yeah.
What did this makeover say about Poland's place in the world at that time?
I think it's a powerful statement. The Renaissance was all about embracing new ideas,
Mm-hmm.
artistic innovation, connecting with the broader European cultural scene.
Yeah.
And by transforming Wawel in this way, King Alexander was signaling Poland's growing influence
Yeah.
and its desire to be seen as a major player on the European stage.
It's fascinating how architectural choices can reflect such profound cultural and political shifts.
Definitely.
And this era also sees the reigns of King Sigismund I and II,
Okay.
who continue to add to Wawel's splendor.
They continued the tradition of expanding and enriching the castle.
Right.
And one of their most notable contributions was amassing this world-class collection of tapestries.
Oh, wow.
Hundreds of these woven masterpieces adorned Wawel's halls,
Really?
depicting everything from biblical scenes to historical events.
These tapestries, as we'll discover later, have their own incredible tale of adventure and survival.
Oh, I can't wait to hear about that.
But before we get to that, we need to address a much darker chapter in Wawel's
Okay.
and Poland's history,
Mm-hmm.
the partitions.
It's a heartbreaking period. By the late 18th century, Poland finds itself in a very vulnerable position,
Right.
weakened by internal struggles,
Yeah.
surrounded by ambitious neighbors, Russia, Prussia, and Austria.
Powerful empires.
These powerful empires saw an opportunity, and they decided to literally carve up Poland amongst themselves.
It's hard to imagine an entire nation being erased from the map.
I know.
What happens to Wawel during this time?
Wawel, stripped of its royal status, suffers a dramatic change in fortune.
Oh, no.
It's first turned into a military hospital and then a fortress under Austrian control.
Wow.
It's a stark contrast to its glorious past, a symbol of royal power,
Right.
reduced to a tool of occupation.
Yet even under these circumstances, the Polish spirit couldn't be completely extinguished.
You're right.
One of our sources details the founding of Wawel's official museum in 1880.
Really?
It's almost an act of defiance, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's a testament to that enduring strength of Polish cultural identity.
Yeah.
Even though Wawel was under foreign control,
Right.
the creation of the museum was a way of reclaiming their heritage,
Mm.
a way of saying, you may occupy our land, but you can't erase our history.
And then as the 20th century dawns, World War I brings about a seismic shift in the global landscape
Okay,
and a glimmer of hope for Poland.
that's right. With the collapse of the empires that had partitioned Poland,
Yeah.
the country finally regains its independence
Wow.
after over a century of foreign rule.
And with independence comes the opportunity to reclaim Wawel
Yes.
and begin the long process of restoring it to its former glory. This restoration, as we'll see, was a monumental undertaking,
Yeah.
spanning decades and requiring incredible dedication.
Really a story of architectural passion and ingenuity,
Mhm.
and a nation's unwavering determination to reclaim its past.
Speaking of reclaiming the past, let's return to those tapestries and their incredible journey during the tumultuous years of World War II. It's a story of daring escapes political intrigue and a world-famous pianist turned art negotiator.
Wow. That's going to be good. Okay, so picture this. The year is 1939,
Okay.
and the shadow of World War II is looming over Europe.
Oh.
And as that Nazi threat grows, those responsible for Wawel's treasures,
Right.
they knew they had to act fast.
We're talking priceless artifacts here, including those incredible tapestries we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
What kind of effort went into safeguarding them from the Nazis?
It was a race against time.
Yeah.
Just a desperate scramble to protect Poland's cultural heritage. Our sources detail how just 2 days
2 days.
after the Nazi invasion began, these treasures were packed up
Wow.
and smuggled out of the country.
2 days. That's cutting it incredibly close.
It was.
Must have taken so much planning and coordination.
Absolutely. And it wasn't just the tapestries.
Right.
They managed to save other incredibly important pieces, like a historic coronation sword
Wow.
and even original manuscripts by Chopin.
It's as though they were trying to preserve the soul of Poland itself.
They were.
It sounds like something out of an adventure novel.
It does.
What route did they take? Where did these treasures end up?
Their journey is a testament to human ingenuity and determination.
Okay.
First, they were transported to the Romanian border, then by ship across the Black Sea.
Wow.
From there, they made their way to France, then Britain, and finally, across the Atlantic to Canada.
What a journey. Safe in Canada, far from the clutches of war?
Right?
Seems like a happy ending. Did they just return the treasures to Wall after the war ended?
Well, it wasn't quite that straightforward.
Oh.
As we learned from our sources, the return of those treasures got a little bit tangled up
Okay.
in the complex web of post-war politics.
What happened?
It turns out that 2 small trunks packed with not only the tapestries,
Okay.
but also those Chopin manuscripts, a Gutenberg Bible,
Wow.
and other priceless artifacts,
Yeah.
ended up in different locations in Canada.
Okay.
Some were held in an Ottawa bank, while others were in the care of a Quebec museum.
So all they had to do was retrieve the trunks and bring them back to Wall.
Well, except there was a complication.
Okay.
One of the Polish immigrants who had helped safeguard those trunks in Canada
Right.
refused to release them to the new Polish government.
You didn't trust them.
He saw the post-war communist government as illegitimate and refused to cooperate.
So this priceless piece of Poland's heritage was essentially being held hostage by its own protector.
Yeah, you could say that.
Wow.
And then a world-famous pianist named Witold Machajewski enters the picture.
The pianist.
He was so moved by this predicament
Okay.
that he canceled a month's worth of concerts
Wow.
to personally fly to Canada
To get the artifacts back.
and negotiate the return of the artifacts.
A world-famous pianist turned art diplomat. That's not something you see every day.
It's pretty unique.
And were his efforts successful?
They were. He managed to persuade the man holding the trunks
Yeah.
to return them in a touching ceremony in 1959.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So that was it.
Yeah.
All the treasures were back where they belonged.
Almost, remember those tapestries held in Quebec?
Oh, right.
The premier of Quebec at the time?
Okay.
Maurice Duplessis,
Uh-huh.
also refused to hand them over to what he too considered a communist-controlled Poland.
So even after surviving the war and a transatlantic journey,
I know.
these tapestries faced yet another hurdle.
It's unbelievable.
Wow.
It wasn't until after Duplessis died in 1959
Okay.
that a new premier, Jean Lesage,
Yeah.
finally agreed to their return in 1961.
So after years of being scattered across continents and caught in political crossfire,
Yeah.
those tapestries finally made their way back to Wawel.
Imagine those tapestries finally unfurled in the halls of Wawel.
Yeah.
After surviving wars, voyages, and political standoffs,
What a story.
they truly became symbols of endurance,
Yeah.
testaments to the lengths people will go to
Yeah.
protect their cultural heritage.
And after all that drama, I imagine Poland was determined to ensure Wawel's protection moving forward.
Absolutely.
Did they implement any measures to safeguard the castle and its collections?
Yeah.
It makes sense that after everything Wawel went through, they wouldn't just, leave its fate to chance.
Right.
What steps did they take to make sure it was protected?
Well, they didn't just rebuild it.
Right.
They fortified it against future threats,
Uh-huh.
both literal and figurative.
Okay.
Multiple institutions were established to oversee different aspects.
Oh, interesting.
The castle itself, the cathedral, the vast art collections. It was like
Mhm.
creating a multi-layered shield around this national treasure.
So no single entity held all the power. That's a pretty clever way to safeguard it,
Yeah,
both physically and from any potential political maneuvering.
exactly. And they didn't stop there. In
Uh-huh.
1978, they went for the ultimate recognition,
Okay.
UNESCO World Heritage status.
Wow.
Wall Hill became part of the larger Historic Center of Krakow designation,
Right.
acknowledging its importance not just to Poland, but to all of humanity.
That's a powerful statement, placing Wawel's value on a global stage. It's like saying, this isn't just our story. It's a piece of the world story that deserves preserving.
Exactly.
But let's rewind a bit further back to the early 20th century, when the Austrians finally left.
Okay.
Poland had reclaimed its independence, and Wawel, though symbolic, was in a sorry state.
Right.
Decades of occupation had left their mark.
Uh-huh.
This is where the true meaning of restoration comes in.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about fixing bricks and mortar.
Right.
It was about reviving a national spirit.
It really was.
When I've read, this restoration was a massive undertaking, a project that spanned generations.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about the people who dedicated themselves to bringing Wawel back to life?
Well, it's inspiring, really. We're talking about architects like Zygmunt Handel
Okay.
and later Adolf Szyszko-Buhus,
Right?
who poured their hearts and souls into this project.
Wow.
Imagine meticulously studying load plans,
Right.
analyzing every inch of the castle structure,
Yeah.
trying to piece together this vision of its former glory.
Szyszko Buhus in particular devoted 30 years of his life to Wawel's restoration.
He did.
That's beyond a career, that's a legacy.
It is.
But such a huge project must have required more than just passion.
Right.
How did they even begin to fund something of this magnitude?
It was a challenge, no doubt. You can't just hold a bake sale to restore a royal castle.
Right.
They had to be creative.
And creative they were.
Oh.
One of our sources details a fascinating fundraising campaign they launched in 1921.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about the Wawel bricks.
Ah, yes, the famous Wawel bricks.
Right.
They came up with this ingenious idea where for a donation of 30,000 marks,
Okay.
you could have your name or a message engraved on a brick.
Oh, wow.
That brick would then become part of the wall leading into the castle complex.
That's brilliant. It's like leaving your personal mark on history,
Right.
contributing to something much larger than yourself. It must have resonated with a lot of people.
It did. Over 6,000 bricks were funded this way.
Wow.
Sadly, the project faced setbacks. There were structural issues with some of the bricks.
Oh.
And then, of course, World War II interrupted everything.
Right.
Yeah.
So the original vision of a fully brick-lined entrance never quite came to fruition.
Not entirely. But the bricks that were laid still exist today.
They do.
A testament to the public's desire to see Wall restored.
That's amazing.
They even underwent conservation efforts in the 1990s.
Oh, wow.
And again in 2013 to ensure they remain a part of Wawel's story.
It's a beautiful reminder that Wawel's restoration wasn't just an architectural project, it was a national endeavor.
Right.
Each brick represents a contribution, a shared commitment to reclaiming their heritage.
And it wasn't just about restoring a building.
Right.
This was about reclaiming Poland's cultural identity,
Uh-huh.
proving to the world that Poland was back stronger than ever.
And Wawel stands today as a testament to that resilience.
It does.
It's not just a relic of the past, It's a living, breathing museum.
I love that.
Visitors can walk through those meticulously restored royal chambers, marvel at those tapestries that survived so much,
It's true.
and connect with 1,000 years of Polish history.
It really makes you appreciate the power of human determination.
It does.
Even when their nation was literally wiped off the map, the Polish people never gave up on Wall.
Mm-hmm.
They held on to their culture, their history.
Yeah.
And in doing so, they ensured that Wawel would continue to inspire generations to come.
It's an incredible story, and it leaves me thinking,
Yeah.
what treasures in our own lives
Mm.
might deserve that kind of dedication?
Hmm.
What have we perhaps neglected that, with a bit of effort, could be restored, revived, and brought back to life?
That's a powerful thought, isn't it? Wawel's journey reminds us that even when things seem lied or broken,
Yeah,
there's always hope for renewal, for restoration.
right.
We have the power to rebuild, to reclaim what's been forgotten, and to create a brighter future, grounded in the lessons of the past.
And on that note, we come to the end of our deep dive into Wall Castle. We hope you've enjoyed this journey through Polish history, art, and the indomitable human spirit.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep into the stories that connect us all.